If you have ever drifted off to sleep and suddenly jerked awake with a violent sensation of falling, listen closely. This is not a muscle spasm. This is not a random glitch in your nervous system. You have just experienced the most primitive rehearsal your spirit knows. It is a test of the tether. If you are the kind of person who feels an unexplained anxiety when entering hospitals or places of deep history, or if you possess an innate, quiet knowing that the body you see in the mirror is merely a rented vessel, then this message is meant specifically for you. You are not hypochondriac. You are not overly sensitive. You are tuned into the frequency of the silver cord. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet who successfully documented over 14,000 readings from the Akashic records, described the moment of death not as an end, but as a specific mechanical decoupling. We need to talk about the biology of your exit. Most people believe death happens in a single second. The monitor flatlines, the breath stops, the room goes silent. But the Akashic records tell a different story. A story that spans 3 critical days. When the physical heart stops beating, a process begins that is as precise as the launch of a spacecraft detaching from its heavy boosters. Cayce described a phenomenon known as the silver cord. This is not a metaphor. It is an energetic structure, a literal lifeline made of infinite shimmering elasticity that connects your physical pineal gland to your etheric double. Think of it like an umbilical cord for the soul. For your entire life, this cord has kept you anchored to your biology. It is the reason you stay inside your body while you dream. It is the reason you return to consciousness after anesthesia. But when the physical system fails, the decoupling sequence initiates. This is the moment the medical community calls death, but which the initiates of the ancient mysteries call the Great Withdrawal. For the first few minutes after the heart stops, you are still here. Cayce explained that the entity, that is you, moves out of the physical shell, but hovers directly above it. You are not in heaven. You are not in hell. You are in the room. You can likely see the doctors. You can hear the weeping of relatives. But you feel a strange, terrifying lightness. The density of bone and blood is gone. This is where the training of the silent warrior comes in. If you have spent your life fearing this moment, the panic can create a turbulence in the ether. But if you understand the mechanism, you remain calm. You realize that the silver cord is stretching, but it has not yet snapped. This is the critical phase that modern science ignores, yet every ancient scripture mentions. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 6 warns us of the time before the silver cord is severed. Edgar Cayce saw this cord pulsing with light and energy. As the physical body begins to cool, the etheric body begins to gather its energy from the extremities. This is why the feet and hands go cold first. It is not just circulation failing. It is the soul recalling its energy. It is pulling its consciousness out of the toes, out of the fingertips, retreating up the limbs, gathering in the solar plexus and the brain. It is a harvesting of self. The life force that you have spent decades cultivating is being packed up for transit, and this process takes time. The records indicate that for many souls, this connection remains intact for up to 3 days. This is the soul's sleep. Cayce described this period as a necessary hibernation. Just as a diver cannot shoot to the surface of the ocean without decompressing, the soul cannot shoot into the high vibrations of the afterlife without shedding the heavy magnetism of Earth. You need to rest. Your consciousness enters a state of profound, dreamless suspension. The silver cord is thinning, fraying, preparing for the final liberation. During this time, the personality, the you that likes coffee, the you that holds grudges, The you that worries about taxes begins to dissolve. That is the heavy luggage. You cannot take it through the needle's eye. What remains is the observer, the pure witness. But here is where the warning comes in. If the body is destroyed too quickly, or if there is immense trauma and attachment to the physical world, the decoupling can be violent. The soul becomes confused. It tries to cling to the cord. It tries to re-enter a house that has already been condemned. This is why Cayce emphasized the importance of prayer and meditation during our lifetime. Not to please a deity, but to train the muscle of letting go. Every time you meditate, you are practicing the loosening of the cord. Every time you fall into a deep sleep and wake up refreshed, you have successfully practiced a mini-death. You are a veteran of this process. You just do not remember the training. The 3-day window is the transition zone. It is the hallway between the two rooms. In this state, you are wrapped in a cocoon of etheric substance. The disturbances of the physical world begin to sound muffled, like voices heard underwater. The vibrations of the next dimension begin to bleed through. Colors you have never seen. Sounds that are not audio waves, but pure emotion. And then, the moment of severance arrives. The silver cord snaps. The recoil is felt as a surge of absolute freedom. The anchor is cut. The ship is adrift in the sea of stars. This is not a moment of loss. It is the moment you have been working toward for 80 years. It is the graduation. For those of you watching who feel a heavy weariness in your bones, who feel that the world is too loud and too sharp, understand this. Your weariness is just your spirit sensing the weight of the anchor. You are sensing the tension in the cord. You are not depressed. You are perceptively aware of your containment. Cayce taught that understanding this biology of the soul removes the fear. When you know that death is simply the snapping of a cord and the beginning of a rest period, the terror vanishes. You realize you are indestructible energy temporarily squeezed into a biological suit. We are about to go deeper into what happens when you wake up from that 3-day sleep. What greets you on the other side? Who is waiting? And why did Cayce say that the first face you see is often not who you expect? Stay focused. We are unlocking the map of your return journey. If you feel this resonance in your chest, if you feel the vibration of truth in these words, I want you to assert your nature right now. Scroll down and leave a comment. Write these words. I am not the body. I am the traveler. Write it to solidify the memory in your cells. I am not the body. I am the traveler. Because when the cord snaps, that memory will be the only thing you carry with you. Now begins the phase that Edgar Cayce described as the most critical calibration of your existence. We call it the 72-hour download. But do not let earthly clocks fool you. In the dimension you are entering, time does not tick in a straight line from past to future. It expands outward like a sphere. The sleeping prophet called this the interregnum. It is the decompression chamber between the density of flesh and the absolute freedom of spirit. If you have ever woken up from a dream where you lived an entire lifetime in the span of a 20-minute nap, then you have already tasted a fraction of this state. For the first 3 days of Earth time following the severance of the silver cord, you enter a panoramic immersion. This is not a movie theater where you sit passively in the dark watching a screen. It is a total sensory re-experiencing of every single breath you took since the moment of your birth. Edgar Cayce was very specific about this mechanism. He taught that the subconscious mind possesses a perfect, indestructible memory that records every vibration. Nothing is lost. Not the secret thought you had in traffic in 1999. Not the tear you swallowed in the bathroom at your workplace in 2012. It is all there. And now, stripped of the biological filters of the brain, the floodgates open. You are about to face the Akashic download. But here is the secret that religious texts often mistranslate and fearmongers use to control you. There is no old man on a throne judging you. There is no external deity pointing a finger at your mistakes. The judge is you, and you are a far stricter judge than any god you could imagine. In this panoramic state, you do not just see what you did. You become the recipient of your own actions. If you spoke a harsh word to a cashier 10 years ago because you were stressed, in this review, you do not feel your stress. You feel the cashier's humiliation. You feel the sharp sting in their chest, as if it were happening inside your own soul. You experience the ripple effect of your energy. This is why Cayce emphasized the law of cause and effect, not as punishment, but as physics. It is simply energy returning to its source. But listen closely, because if you are sensitive, if you are an empath, if you have spent your life feeling the weight of the world, this next part will change your entire psychology. During this 72-hour review, the purpose is not to shame you. The purpose is data extraction. The Hall of Records is analyzing your trajectory. Those moments of trauma you endured. Those nights of agonizing loneliness. The financial ruin or the physical pain that seemed to have no purpose. In this state, the narrative flips. You will see that those were not failures. They were resistance training. Just as an athlete adds weight to the bar to build muscle, your soul chose those specific heavy circumstances to build vibrational mass. You will look at the betrayal you suffered in your 30s, and you will not see a victim. You will see a master soul deliberately placing an obstacle on the track to test its ability to forgive. You will see that the illness was not bad luck. It was a catalyst designed to force you to look inward rather than outward. Cayce called these opportunities for soul. The Akashic records view your life as a series of electrical impulses. Did you maintain your voltage when the darkness surrounded you? Did you keep your light steady when the world tried to dim it? That is the only metric that matters in the review. It is a graduation exam. And every time you chose kindness over spite, every time you chose patience over rage, it registered as a spike of gold in your chart. This review determines your next assignment. It determines the density of the dimension you will gravitate toward next. It is simple buoyancy. If you hold on to grudges, if you refuse to forgive yourself during this review, your vibration remains heavy. You stay close to the earth plane. You become what Cayce called earthbound, caught in the gravity of unsatisfied desires. But if you can look at the panorama of your life, acknowledge the errors, bless the lessons, and release the guilt, you become light. You begin to rise. The heavy data is processed and stored as wisdom, and the emotional charge is neutralized. This is the alchemy of the soul, turning the lead of human suffering into the gold of spiritual awareness. But this process requires preparation. You cannot wait until you are dead to learn how to forgive. You must practice the panoramic review while you are still breathing. Every night, before you sleep, Cayce advised reviewing the day in reverse. Look at your actions. Judge them now so you do not have to judge them later. Correct the behavior now. Apologize now. Clear the static from your frequency so that when the 72-hour download begins, it is a celebration of victory, not a catalog of regrets. But what happens once the review is complete? When the data is stored and the vibration is measured? Where does the soul go when it is finally free of the Earth's gravitational pull. This is where Cayce's revelations become truly mind-bending. He spoke of planetary sojourns. He spoke of dimensions that exist not in outer space, but in inner space, associated with the frequencies of the planets in our solar system. Are you heading to the realm of Mercury for intellectual expansion? Or are you destined for the intense emotional schooling of the Venusian sphere? The destination is already written in your aura. We are going to decode the map of the afterlife realms in the next few minutes. You need to know where you are heading. But before we ascend to those spheres, I need to know that you are ready to face your own record. I need to know you are brave enough to look at the mirror of your soul without flinching. If you accept the responsibility of your own energy. If you are ready to transmute your pain into power. Leave a comment below. It is a command to your subconscious mind. Write this. I forgive myself. I release the weight. Do it now. I forgive myself. I release the weight. Because only the weightless can ascend to what comes next. Now that the silver cord is severed. Now that the physical shell is left behind. You enter the silence. This is the moment the sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce, described as the true birth. What happens after the third day is not a drift into nothingness. It is a launch into a hyper-structured cosmic university. You are about to understand why you look at the night sky and feel a pull in your chest that you cannot explain with logic. That is not just gravity. That is homesickness. Because according to the readings of the Akasha, our solar system is not merely rocks and gas giants spinning in a cold void. It is a literal map of the dimensions of consciousness. Every planet is a school. Every sphere is a specialized laboratory for the spirit. Edgar Cayce was very specific about this. He taught that astrology, as we know it in the newspapers, is merely a shadow of the truth. The truth is that the position of the planets at your birth matters, because it reveals where your soul was just before it entered the womb. It reveals the last university you attended. So, 3 days after the transition, your consciousness begins to vibrate at a frequency that is no longer compatible with the Earth plane. You begin to travel. But you do not travel with a rocket. You travel by attraction. Just as a magnet finds steel in a pile of sawdust, your soul is pulled toward the planetary sphere that matches your developmental needs. This is the interplanetary blueprint. Listen closely, because this explains your current personality. If you have spent your life governed by deep, overwhelming emotions, if you are an artist, a lover, or someone who feels the pain of the world too sharply, it is highly probable that your soul will be drawn to the sphere of Venus. In the Cayce readings, Venus is not just a hot rock, it is the realm of intense emotional schooling. It is where we learn to harmonize love with wisdom. If you go there, you are not being punished. You are refining the raw energy of the heart. But perhaps you are different. Perhaps you are a builder, a warrior, someone who pushes against obstacles with sheer force of will. If your karma is tied to anger, to defense, or to the active projection of power, you may find yourself drawn to the sphere of Mars. Cayce described Mars as a realm of strange and powerful force, a place where the soul learns the consequences of aggression and the value of protection. It is a dense, red vibration, a testing ground for the spirit warrior. Then there is Mercury, the dimension of the high mind, the realm of communication and intellect. If you are a writer, a teacher, or a scientist, you have likely spent time, or what passes for time in eternity, within the mercurial influence. Between lives, you go there to study the patterns of thought itself. But there is a warning in the files of the sleeping prophet, a warning about the great tester, Saturn. In the cosmology of Cayce, Saturn is the great changemaker. It is the sphere of earthly shedding. He spoke of souls who are sent to Saturn to begin again, to have the slate wiped clean because the matter had become too heavy. It is not a hell, but it is a rigorous processing center for souls that have become too attached to the physical illusion. If you have a difficult life right now, if you feel like you are constantly being tested, constantly being broken down and rebuilt, you may have just arrived from a sojourn in Saturn. You are made of stern stuff. You are here to endure. And then there are the outer giants. Jupiter, the realm of high nobility and large groups. Souls that come from Jupiter often deal with masses of people, with politics, with large-scale vision. Uranus, the realm of the psychic, the realm of the occult. If you feel you have a sixth sense, if you know things before they happen, if you feel uncomfortable in the density of normal conversation, it is because you carry the vibration of Uranus in your spiritual DNA. You are bringing the frequency of the extreme outer limits into this dense world. You are a bridge. So after the third day, you traverse these realms. You do not go to all of them. You go to the ones you need. You gather the ingredients for your next personality. You collect strengths. You confront weaknesses. This is the interplanetary sojourn. It can last for what feels like 10 years or 10 centuries. Time does not exist there as it does here, but eventually, the cycle completes. The lessons of the spheres are absorbed. And then comes the moment of the final choice. This is the most critical juncture in the entire existence of a soul. You stand before the great hall of records. You see the totality of your journey. You see the lives you lived in Atlantis. You see your time as a peasant in France. You see your time as a soldier in Rome. And you see the life you just left, the mistakes, the kindnesses, the words left unsaid, and a question vibrates through your entire being. Are you done? This is the choice. Option 1. Ascension. If you have learned the lessons of love, patience, and moderation, if you have realized that we are all one force, if you have no more karma to balance, you may choose to leave the solar system cycle entirely. You move to a consciousness so high, so expansive, that the human mind cannot comprehend it. You become a companion to the creative forces on a universal scale. You graduate from the school of Earth. But, and this is the massive, heavy truth that Cayce revealed, most of us do not choose this. Not yet. Because we look back at Earth, and we see the people we left behind. We see the injustices we did not fix. We see the love we threw away. And a terrible, beautiful hunger grips the soul. The hunger to make it right. The desire to try one more time. To feel the sun on human skin. To hold a child. To finish the work. This is the choice of reincarnation. It is not a sentence imposed by a judge. It is a volunteer mission accepted by you. You choose to come back. You look at the blueprint of a new life. You see that it will be hard. You see that you will be born in a difficult time, perhaps in a poor family, perhaps with a body that will challenge you. And you say yes. Because you know that the diamond is only formed under pressure. You choose your parents. You choose your timing. You choose the astrological alignment that will give you the exact tools you gathered during your interplanetary journey. And then, you descend. The vibrations lower. The memory of the spheres begins to fade, hidden behind the veil so that your free will can be tested without cheating. You forget the majesty of Jupiter. You forget the love of Venus. You forget the power of Mars. But they are still there, locked in your cells. written in the palm of your hand, echoing in your intuition. You are now back in the classroom. So I ask you today, look at your life. Look at your struggles. Do not see them as random bad luck. See them as the curriculum you wrote for yourself. You are the architect. You are the traveler. And you are here for a reason that is ancient and specific. If this resonates with a deep part of you that has been sleeping, if you feel the truth of the spheres in your blood, I want you to make a declaration of awareness. I want you to signal to your higher self that you remember. Go to the comments right now. Do not hesitate. This is a physical action to anchor a spiritual truth. Write this phrase: I am an eternal traveler. I choose my mission. Write it. I am an eternal traveler. I choose my mission. Let the algorithm of the universe know you are awake. Because in the next video, we are going to unlock the specific signs in your body that reveal exactly which planet you came from before this life. You might be a Venusian soul trapped in a warrior's life. We will find out. Stay with me. The journey has only just begun.